I've tried to follow the precedent set by the author, and that is by making my review, my write-up, very simple. When I read the book, I didn't find too many technicalities in it. It's a book that anybody who is literate or functionally literate can read and find useful. I've titled my write-up Perspectives on African Mindshift. If you just take that title, you may think it's an academic work, but it's not an academic work at all. So I wonder if you have this. I begin with a quote, and that quote, that's the only thing that came to my mind when I got the book and began to read it. And it comes from, I wonder how many of you love rap music from way back. How many of you remember Grandmaster Flash? Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. So I take a quote from him to start my work, my review. And that quote is, "A child is born with no state of mind, blind to the ways of mankind." So, recently I got into a conversation with a young lady who is a graduate of English language and international relations from a state-owned university in Nigeria. And that's not to say that state-owned universities are better or worse than private-owned universities, because recently the NUC came out with a ranking of universities in Nigeria, and it was a public university, Ahmadu Bello, that they ranked #1. So it's neither here nor there. And as we got talking, I asked her if she could speak any Nigerian language. This lady is Yoruba, and she said yes, she can speak Yoruba. So I asked if she could speak any other Nigerian language apart from Yoruba. She said no. So I said, what about Pidgin? She said, no, Pidgin is not a proper language. And I said, why? I asked her why. She said, well, that's what she was told in school. So this is what we find, and that's the kind of conversation Lulu is trying to engage everybody in with this book. We start school from nursery all the way to university. We get a degree and come out, and the only thing we know and try to use are the things we were told in school. We don't interrogate. We don't ask questions. It's different in other parts of the world, where you can be scored 100% for failing if your logic is right. If your thought process and the way you argued, you marshaled your points is right, your professor is likely to score you some good marks. That won't happen in a Nigerian university. So we have a graduate who thinks that Pidgin English is not proper language. So I asked her, does it achieve communication? Does Pidgin achieve communication? Is there a sender and a receiver? Do you communicate? Do you pass messages? She said yes. And then I tried to let her know that this Pidgin that you are disparaging is the basis for a whole media enterprise called Wazobia FM. And do you know who brought Wazobia? Well, we may say they are Nigerians now because they are naturalized Nigerians, Mosalis. But it took somebody from somewhere else to see that gold mine. And it was there all the time. Now I remember when I was younger, I've forgotten the man's name now, who made a very serious and vigorous campaign to try to get us to make Pidgin our lingua franca. But nobody gave him a chance. Because we apparently have this disdain for things that are ours, that we ought to use. Now, still talking about pidgin, and the kind of gold mine that pidgin has become, BBC. The BBC this year is setting up a pidgin language service, pidgin language radio station. That's to tell you how much, and those are the people who told us we should not speak pidgin, no? Yeah. The British. Now they found that it is paying, it's useful, and they are setting up an enterprise on it. So I think Lulu has done well to try to tell us that we shouldn't just take everything teachers or lecturers, even preachers say, but we should try to ask questions and interrogate them. So perhaps the greatest impediment to Mindshift in Africa is the failure of the African to ask questions, to question things. We simply do not raise queries. Very often, the mind of the African is still caged in that primitive era. Instead of examining and cross-examining, and the chairman apparently knows about examining and cross-examining, being the lawyer, very erudite lawyer that he is. What we do not understand again and again through thorough analytical processes, which may take years and arduous efforts, we take the simplistic route of deifying the object or phenomenon. In Africa, and I say this with every due respect, I'm an African, I'm a very proud African, but I think we should begin to ask ourselves to do certain things. If we don't understand something, anything we don't understand, and it still happens till today. So I'm not talking about Africa of 15th century. I'm talking about Africa of today. Till today, we still find people who, instead of trying to query or understand through query, understand the matter, they just start to worship that thing. We worship human beings. We worship our pastors. We worship, it's the worship we give to our pastors and such people is no different from what the allies do at the bus stop. It's all about worship. It's idolatry. We don't question. We just, because we don't understand where his wealth comes from, we don't understand how he has gotten to where he is, we just worship him. So how do I know? It is simple. Of the top ranking 7 poorest countries in the world, the first 6 are African countries. And I'm talking about DRC, Zimbabwe, Burundi, Liberia, Eritrea, and our neighbor, Niger. At number 7 is Afghanistan. Of course, you know what Afghanistan is about. That country is just a country in name, but if I ask how many of us would like to go to Afghanistan here, I'm sure I will not find too many volunteers. But I hear that there is no country in the world that we do not have Nigerians. Our brothers from the southeast, they go everywhere. They find, and it's not something to laugh about though. If there are any set of Africans who think things through, even if it is business, it is our brothers from the southeast. And they can smell business anywhere, even in the most absurd situations. So they are in Afghanistan as well, making money, representing Nigeria. There are also these are also the least educated countries in the world. Again, let's look at the list. We have Burkina Faso with 21.8% literacy, South Sudan 24.4%, Chad 25.7%, Niger again 28.7%, Guinea 29.5%, Benin Republic has 34.7, Sierra Leone 34, Ethiopia 53.9, Mozambique has 38.7, and Senegal has 39.9. When you break this data down further, you will find that women are more discriminated against in these societies that are largely still very traditional. Africa, young people and women, we are not supposed to ask questions. We are not supposed to ask our elders questions. It's rude, it's an insult for you to interrogate your elder. And this thing, if I ask some of us who are older here, I am sure that you will have lost the number of knocks on your head, you got on your head, for trying to interrogate your mom or dad or your uncle. These things don't happen. These are societies where children are giving birth to children. Children giving birth to children. And they tell you it is their religion. But they are hiding under the religion to do these things. Because in Tunisia and other Northern African countries, where they are predominantly women as well, Muslim as well, they don't allow that kind of thing. Somebody raises a question on child marriage, it is shouted down. And the senators from the south feel that, well, we are trying to help you. If you don't want the help, if you say it's religion, they keep quiet. Let us reason together. And you find other scriptures asking us to test the spirits. So even God himself encourages us to question things. To question, to task, to put things to task and find which one is correct and which is not. The average African is not able to describe or to tell time. We tend to say things in absolute terms. So if you ask somebody what my complexion is in Africa, what's my complexion, please? Yellow. I'm yellow. So people are either yellow or black in Africa. We are either short or tall, or you fat small, or you know too fat. Being on this program, if somebody puts a call through to anyone, most people in this hall now, to check if the program has started, we are likely to say, you never till we then start. We are not able to say 15 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. And these little things affect our overall thinking, thought process, and our mind. And chapter 4 is titled Inhibitors to Mindshift. And I encourage you to read that chapter, even if that is all you are going to read in that book. Chapter 4. Please, don't fail to read chapter 4. Because this is where he raises questions on perception, unbelief, unforgiving mindset, the perfectionist disposition, which he unashamedly said that he possesses, the class of status victim, that we find out a lot in Africa, the education victim, the poverty victim, the health victim, and the other picture. Well, whether you see yourself in one or two of all of these situations, the remedy is within reach. And what is the remedy? Shift your mind. Shift your mind. Africa cannot continue to hold up excuses for the backwardness of the continent and her people. Africa has what Ogunmade recommends in page 28. And what is that? Page 28 of the book, he says we should master the system. It's possible. If you've been in any grind for too long, you've done anything for too long, or for a reasonably long enough time, you should be able to master that system and be able to exploit that same system to your advantage. So that's one of the recommendations that the author has packaged into the book to help Africa overcome its backwardness. We do not need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to do anything particularly new. All the things that we need, the tools we need to use to overcome as individuals and as a continent, those tools already exist. All we need to do is to master them and use them to our advantage. Let me come back to my Pidgin English examination. If I say in Pidgin, shift, I beg shift. What am I trying to say, sir? If I say, I beg shift, move. What does it imply? I'm not comfortable. So I need you to move so that I can be more comfortable. I need you to move so that I can have more space, so that I can be more relaxed. And that's, in simple terms, what Lulu is trying to say. So even if you do not understand all of the grammar, or some of the grammar that I've been speaking since, in Pidgin, plain Pidgin, I beg, shift. We all need to say shift so that we can be more relaxed, so that we can express ourselves. We need someone or some things to shift. We need space to be more happy. And I encourage you to speak like I'm speaking to myself now, to everything that has been hindering me from achieving my goals. I am saying to them, shift. Shift. Rwanda is one, how many of us know Rwanda? An African country, is doing well. The West is using Rwanda right now as the poster boy of Africa. Everything seems to be going well for Rwanda. But that is a country that a few years ago had a very serious tragedy of monumental dimension. But Rwanda has been able to shift. Rwanda has been able to shift from a mindset of tribalism, from the mindset of religion. And I wish that we would do that in Nigeria. I wish we would stop filling forms and there's a space for state of origin or for ethnic group in Nigeria. Why can't we simply say we are Nigerians? That's what Rwandans have done. But it took a very bad incident of genocide for them to realize that if they do not contain tribalism and all the things that go with it, all the bad things that go with it, it was going to wipe out that country. WhatsApp. So somebody sits down somewhere and writes a message that Hausa people have poisoned all the onion and watermelon coming into Lagos. And the message goes viral. And we believe it. Nobody asks questions. Nobody interrogates. Nobody, is it possible to inject watermelon and onion in their numbers and bring them to K2 with intention to wipe out Southerners? Is it possible? But the people who pass on these messages are supposed to be educated people. I get the message. When I get such messages, I trash them straight. But I know many friends and colleagues who are supposedly educated, who ought to have a critical mind who will pass on such messages. I don't think we are doing ourselves and our country any good if we continue like that. So in Rwanda, they have 64% of the country's legislation is made occupied by women, by far better than America. For once, something good to say about Africa. So the mind shift that is evident in Rwanda can happen here. I don't know what else it will take for Nigerians to be able to learn their lessons and have a national mind shift. If we have fought a war and every now and then we are close to another war, I don't know what it will take for us to have a national mind shift. In simple terms, tribalism, it means that when my ability, my expertise, my experience are second place to my tribe and religion. If we continue to have a situation, we continue to encourage a situation where my abilities don't matter, my expertise doesn't matter, all my education does not matter, then Africa is in trouble and will continue to be in trouble for long. There are countries in Africa that have managed to contain or deal with it, but we still find these things are very, very prevalent in Nigeria. If I ask us now, I know messages have been going around, the presidency has replied, and blah blah, but it's neither here nor there. To build understanding and consensus is to try to see things from the other man's viewpoint. When we say North, we forget that there are 19 states from the North. We forget that every one of those appointees are not from one particular state. They are spread across those 19 states. We forget that in our constitution, the government agency called Federal Character Commission that is supposed to see to it that every part of the country is equally represented in public appointments. So we just say North, Plateau. They are all in northern Nigeria. So a critical mind, a mind that interrogates, will ask how many, okay, they are all from the North, fine. But let's break them down by states. Then probably you will see that they don't really have an advantage as such. It is just that we have more states in the North than we have down south. So that's the kind of thinking that this book encourages, so that we diffuse the tension that is so much in Nigeria. Okay, there is good news. I pray that the nuggets in this book will not amplify the belief, the chairman said this earlier, that if you want to hide something from an African, put it inside a book, because it is probably, the probability is that he will not read it. I hope that will not be true of Lulu's book. If those of us in this hall today imbibe some of the teachings that Lulu has put into this book, like the Ministry of Information is saying, the change, the mind shift can actually begin with us. Can begin with us and become a big movement, and then in no time we will find that there's a mind shift not only in Nigeria but in Africa. Some people argue that this book is coming a little bit late. It's coming at a time when other parts of the world are already talking about AI. How many of us know what AI is? Are going to be programmed, and they will be so precise But who programs these machines? Is it not human beings? It's human beings. So I do not really know or understand what they are talking about. I don't think the book is late. I think it has come in a good time. I think it's a time that we all need to shift our mind, whether as individuals or to help build this movement that we are talking about, so that we can have a collective or national or continental mind shift. In closing, I want to thank Lulu for this privilege, but more importantly, permit me to draw your attention to what should become your sixth fundamental pledge, or as many of us will understand if I present it as prayer points. So, number one, Lulu encourages us to say to every day, I am today the totality of my past decisions. I am today the totality of my past decisions. Number two, he wants us to say to ourselves every day, no one else but me can be held responsible for my decisions. No one else but me can be held responsible for my decisions. Number three, he wants us to say to ourselves, it is not too late to change things around. It is not too late to change things around. The fourth prayer point, I have the power to change things that I don't want in my life. I have the power to change things that I don't want in my life. Number five, I can create the life I want if I commit to the vision of what that life is. I can create the life I want if I commit to the vision of what that life is. And the last one is, I must create and sustain a mind of renewal experience. I must create and sustain a mind of renewal experience. Through exposure to people, information, and images that enhance any vision of the life I want. Thank you so very much.